Hypothetically, your boyfriend might break up with you after a couple months together. Hypothetically, a week after the breakup, you might ask him to meet you for lunch, not because you want to get back together, but to tell him, I'm pregnant, it's yours, and I'm keeping it. You can either be in our lives or not. It's your choice. And hypothetically, he might say, thanks, but no thanks. Hypothetically was literally 13 years ago in the fall of 1999. When that pregnancy turned into a sweet baby boy, I sat in a courtroom with my mom by my side for a hearing that would terminate the parental rights of my son's biological father. I didn't do this because he was a bad man, or even because I was afraid of him. I did it because, honestly, I didn't know him very well, and surely didn't know his parents. I did it to protect my child from the unknown. As the judge applauded me for doing the right thing and declared this in the best interest of the child, my mom and I silently cheered and then joined my dad and baby Ben for a celebratory breakfast. As we toasted over orange juice glasses, we all felt a sense of calm and reassurance that this baby was 100% mine. As the years went by, my boy would sometimes ask, "Do I have a daddy?" But to him, that word didn't really mean anything. If you're born without an arm, do you ever miss it? So I would smile and say, "You do, but we don't know where he lives. You don't need a daddy because you have me and grandma and grandpa. Want a cookie?" 8 years passed after that day in court, and during those years, I successfully dated every commitment phobe with possible personality disorder in the greater Madison area. Until one day the universe got bored of messing with me and introduced me to the best first date ever, which soon turned into the best fiance ever, and finally into the best husband most times. Unlike some of his uncles before, Ben took to Matt immediately. Even before we were married, Ben started calling him Dad on his own accord, and Matt truly became Ben's father, more than any piece of paper or drop of blood could prove. Regardless, we wanted it to become official, and since Ben already had a blank spot in this father column, we thought the adoption process would be easy. Fill out some papers, pay a small fee, show up in court, done. We were stupid. Once I started delving into this adventure, I got confused if I was trying to have my husband adopt my son, or if we were adopting the entire island of Fiji. Even though it's a step-parent adoption, the state makes you go through an adoption agency. Luckily, we didn't have to wait for a child, since I already knew of a great kid who looked a lot like me and happened to be available. The process was to include a home visit, a substantial fee, a 46-page questionnaire for Matt, a medical physical for Matt and Ben, background checks and fingerprints done on Matt, copies of all our financial statements, insurance, and even the dog's vaccinations. We also had to create an escape route complete with the drawing in case of fire or other catastrophe. Not to mention smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors in every single room. Send your kids over, we have the safest house in the Midwest. The government doesn't care if you name your child Honey Boo Boo and put her on reality TV, but they sure do care if your sweet, good husband wants to adopt your child who he already calls Dad. I understand and completely support protecting our children, but I did legally marry the guy without anyone seeming to care there was a child in the mix. Without a choice, we trudged through bureaucracy's finest maze. I would often joke that at any minute social services was going to show up at my door, but this time they really did. Even though I wasn't too nervous about the home visit, I did coach Ben not to tell her that he sometimes has cereal for dinner when it's 7:30, and he has to remind his parents he hasn't eaten. There were many hiccups along the way. The court date had to be pushed back twice. There was some trouble with the original termination that luckily got cleared up, not without a panic attack or 12 from me. And there were issues with the adoption agency fees. All my worrying was for naught, because despite the dog eating the social worker's notes, the home visit went great. We completed the encyclopedia of paperwork. My husband cleared all of his background checks, and even I wasn't deemed an unfit mother. When the day of the adoption came, I was nervous. This had been anything but a simple process. In the courtroom, Matt, Ben, and I were sitting at the table together like lawyer and plaintiff with our parents behind us. I was fighting so hard not to ugly cry during the short proceeding that when the judge asked Matt, Ben, and I individually if we were all in favor of this adoption, I couldn't talk, so I just nodded. To which he said, "I'm sorry, Rebecca, I need a verbal yes." Yes! To which he replied, "Okay then. As a judge in the state of Wisconsin, Dane County, I hereby see that this adoption is in the best interest of the child Benjamin, so I'll happily sign the order." And just like that, Ben had a dad. There was no longer a blank spot on his birth certificate. My name was finally joined by another. Oftentimes in this motherhood gig, there's a lot of guilt and worry about doing the right thing. But on August 1st, 2012, I had none. I gave myself a pat on the back that even though it took 12 years, I finally gave my boy a gift cooler than an Xbox. I gave him a father. And not just a father, a man who not only wanted to be in my life, he chose my son.